Hello, you are watching CNN. I'm Linda Kincaid. You've just been listening to President Trump lashing out at the U.S. Justice Department for its past actions against him. It was really a stunning scene to see Donald Trump there speaking at the Justice Department, the very department that was prosecuting him just a few months ago. Now, this was billed as a law and order speech. But the department, as we've just been hearing there, Donald Trump spoke mostly about his cases that the department investigated. The two federal cases, of course, were dismissed just after his election win in November last year due to the DOJ's policy of not prosecuting sitting presidents. It is very rare to see a US president speak at the Justice Department, a department that is obviously meant to act independent of the executive branch, and completely unheard of to see a president using expletives there. Well, the department has been reshaped by the new administration, and over the past few weeks, the DOJ has been shaken by a series of firings, resignations, and reassignments. Well, our Jeff Zeleny is following this and joins us now live from DC. Good to have you with us. So Donald Trump was a critic of the Justice Department for many years, even before being indicted twice. Moments ago, he was talking about the lies created within the walls of that department. What is his agenda?
Look, his agenda, Linda, is to relitigate the past and to do it right in the heart of the Department of Justice in a moment that we have never seen a U.S. president stand in the Hall of Justice, that's the building that he is in, and talk about his own cases like this. This was ostensibly, as the Attorney General Pam Bondi introduced him, as a moment to talk about what he's doing on immigration, what he's doing on fentanyl. That is not that. It is anything but that. He is relitigating his past grievances about the charges against him. But interestingly, it highlights one of the big differences between the first Trump administration and this current Trump administration. One of his big regrets was naming Jeff Sessions as the Attorney General. Of course, he was the longtime Alabama Republican senator. He ultimately recused himself from the Russia investigation, and that led to much of the legal problems for the president. This time it's entirely different. The people in the audience, and indeed his entire leadership at the FBI, at the Department of Justice, are all the staunchest of loyalists. So that is likely, at least to my belief at this point, covering both administrations, it is one of the biggest differences, surrounding himself by all of these loyalists, essentially inoculating himself. But it's a bit hard to see what the purpose for this speech is, other than simply a bit of a moment for the president to bask in the fact that this Justice Department is now, at least in his eyes, his.
Yeah, exactly. Certainly he sees this, it seems, as a victory lap, given that those cases against him were dismissed after winning. The agency, of course, has seen major shakeups, as you were mentioning, especially the last few weeks, where we saw these senior career officials essentially removed from their jobs. This agency is meant to act independently of the executive branch. Just tell us more about just how unusual it is to see a president having this speech in the Justice Department.
It's remarkably unusual. There is no modern parallel in history. The last time a president went to deliver a speech over there, it was President Obama a little bit more than a decade ago, and that was simply a goodbye address to Eric Holder, the Attorney General at the time. So this is entirely without a precedent. But you're right about the recent spate of firings. I mean, the Trump administration is well underway of reshaping and remaking and resizing the federal workforce, the federal bureaucracy, and the Justice Department is front and center in those efforts. Many career attorneys who have served both Republican and Democratic administrations without partisanship, they have either been removed or resigned. So this is an entirely different Justice Department. There is no doubt about it. And it has a potentially far-reaching effects here. I mean, even in ways that we are not even able to see at this point, of course. We will see how the rest of this term unfolds. I will say, though, Linda, there was one bit of news that my ears sort of perked up when the president was talking about Russia and Ukraine. He said, shortly before I came here, I got a piece of good news. So underlying this whole discussion. He was about an hour late to give this speech. We do know that front and center at the White House are those ongoing potential for peace talks. Vladimir Putin, obviously, it's the ball's in his court, if you will. We do know that the White House is setting up a phone call in the coming days between Trump and Putin. So my ears certainly perked up when he stopped talking about justice and said we got a bit of news in terms of the Russia-Ukraine front. But otherwise, it simply has been a litany of grievances repeating what we've heard and lived through in the first Trump administration.
Jeff Celeny outside the White House for us. Good to have you there. Thanks so much.
It's my pleasure.
Well, any moment now, we are expecting the US Senate to vote on a spending bill to avoid a government shutdown. These are live pictures from the Senate floor. At least 3 Democrats are offering to help pass the last-minute bill, including the Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. He says the stopgap bill, known as a continuing resolution, is the lesser of 2 evils.
The CR is a bad bill. But as bad as the CR is, I believe allowing Donald Trump to take even much more power via a government shutdown is a far worse option.
Well, Schumer's decision has angered some of his party's rank and file, including House Democrat Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who called it a betrayal. Well, Larry Sabato is the director of the Center for Politics at the University of Virginia. He joins us now live. Good to see you, Larry.
Thank you, Linda.
So just before we get to that vote, I just want to ask you about the Donald Trump speech we just heard there, long, rambling, essentially all about himself. But certainly we saw on the campaign trail Trump vowing to go after those who prosecuting him, vowing retribution and revenge, and certainly seems he's doing that.
I have watched, and you have watched, we've all watched many outrageous speeches by Donald Trump. This is right at the top. And I hope people will pay attention, because what he was really pledging was an end to nonpartisan justice in the United States. This was more than revenge and retribution. He blew up every custom, tradition, and guardrail we have around the Justice Department and the FBI and so on. He's talking about making them partisan agents for his MAGA base and for himself. This is deeply dangerous. And this is not one where the news media should play the on the one hand and then on the other hand game. This is dangerous.
Yeah, you make a very clear point there, Larry. I want to move on from that for just a moment and look at this spending bill. Of course, the midnight deadline to pass a Republican bill or face a government shutdown is just hours away. What seems to be clear is the division within the Democratic Party.
Yes, isn't it ironic that when Trump and Elon Musk are really deconstructing the federal government and causing untold damage all the way across the system, the Democrats managed to make themselves the issue on a day when a lot of this is happening. Now, Chuck Schumer made what he considers, and others consider, a rational decision to cut the losses. That is, this was lose-lose for Democrats, whichever way they went. And you can argue, as Schumer did, that he took the least damaging option. You know, the fork in the road, each fork led to a drowning, but he has a chance of surviving in the one that he selected. What he did not fully account for, though, is the tremendous anger that has built up in the Democratic base. And we're seeing it everywhere. They're desperate for Democrats to stand up and start fighting this person, this Donald Trump, who might well destroy the American system of democracy, the American republic. And they're not getting it. Democrats are all over the lot. They're arguing with themselves instead of agreeing on a common position to go after Trump and Musk.
And I want to just look at the reasons Chuck Schumer says he will vote for this Republican bill. He claims that a shutdown will give more power to Trump and Musk. How so?
Well, it's possible that it would work out that way in the sense that with government shut, they would have the options potentially of reigniting pieces of the government that they prefer sending their own people in to operate those branches and getting access to all of the lists and background information and private data about Americans that they've been seeking but haven't been able to get. It is possible that would happen. I guess I would argue that it's also possible that it will happen under the current system. They certainly have done a lot of it already. So could it get much worse? I suppose it could, but it's hard to imagine the difference between the levels of hell.
Yeah, exactly. Larry Sabato, always great to get your analysis. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Linda.